Now, welcome to another edition of Battle of the Heroes and Villains, where this time we'll be taking a look at the results of the poll for Cad Bane, and then comparing those results to all the other characters we've done thus far, before I then read and respond to some of your comments. But before that, you can of course already nominate or vote for which character we do next. Just head down and respond to my pinned comment below with the name of a character, or vote with a thumbs up if the one you'd like to see is already there. Whichever comment gets the most votes in the next 24 hours or so will be the winner and the character we do next. Okay, and now let's take a look at the results for Cad Bane, where we'll see that 25% of voters gave him an A, 59% then thought he was a B tier character, 12% thought C, which left 1% to give him a D, and a final 2% to give him an F. And so when we do all the math here and consider A a score of 5 and F a score of 1, Cad Bane ends up with an average score of 4.04, which puts him into 14th place overall. Which, though yes is low on the list, is maybe a little higher than I actually thought he'd finish. And keep in mind, I'm someone who does love the character. He's probably my favorite bounty hunter overall. And so I guess you could say I'm pleasantly surprised to see many others also really enjoy the character. It's also interesting to note that he finished ahead of 3 of the other featured Clone Wars villains, Dooku, Grievous, and Ventress, but a little ways behind Maul. And considering we did Maul before the Siege of Mandalore arc, he probably would find himself rated a bit higher now than he did back then. Either way though, let's now get to your comments, but not before once again saying thank you to everyone who votes, comments, and watches the videos. It's always interesting to read your takes on these characters and to see where they'll wind up on that overall list. Anyway, time to start as we always do with the top rated comment, which this time came to us from DV, who said, "Really wish we could have saw that final Cad Bane arc where he had a duel with Boba." And it's probably worth mentioning that the second highest rated comment, which came to us from Rebel Spy, said pretty much the exact same thing, which means I think there are a lot of people who really wanted to see, and still want to see, that Cad Bane and Boba Fett duel. And if you're not sure what that is, well, there was going to be a bounty hunter story arc in the Clone Wars, which ultimately would have seen Cad Bane versus Boba Fett in a duel. There was even a rough animation of the duel released a few years back, and I'll try to remember to put a link to it in the description below. But if I forget, it's easy enough to find here on YouTube. Anyway, in the duel, Cad Bane is killed by a young Boba Fett, voiced by Daniel Logan, who played him in Episode 2, and Boba would have died as well. He was shot in the head after all, if not for his helmet, which obviously got dinged pretty good, which is the very same ding we see later on in the original trilogy. Anyway, I think this arc was really meant to, or going to, show us a changing of the guard, to show us how arguably the best bounty hunter in the galaxy during the Clone Wars, which was Cad Bane, was taken down by the soon-to-be best bounty hunter in the galaxy, that being Boba Fett. This arc, I think, was meant to be the start of the legend of Boba Fett, and it's a shame we never got to see it. However, I'd guess there's a really good chance it could be repurposed and altered a bit if need be, to perhaps fit somewhere into the upcoming Bad Batch series, which is said to focus on how they, the Bad Batch, will deal in the post-Clone Wars galaxy after the Empire has taken over, and we'll see them deal with the criminal underworld as they try to make their way in the galaxy. So I see no reason, especially considering this bounty hunter arc did make its way into rough animation, that it couldn't see the light of day in that series. I see no reason why they couldn't still get to it eventually. Alright, and next up here we have this comment from Dark Spartan FTW, or For the Win, who said he's just like Grievous in the fact that he'd be an A tier character if they changed a couple little features and gave the character a little bit more screen time. Also got this one from Marty Mills, who said, "One of the coolest characters in the prequel era, just not enough content." Also had this one from John W. Kindig, who said, "I actually have to give him an A despite being a minor villain. We know his motivation, his character is well fleshed out, and he is always exciting to watch when he is on screen. I wanted to say B because of his lower screen time, but his character is just better than that and steals the show when he's there." I mean, I certainly wouldn't have been opposed to more Cad Bane screen time in the Clone Wars, and part of the reason I'm almost glad we didn't get that Boba/Cad Bane arc where they duel and he dies is we could technically still get more Cad Bane in the future in other time periods if that story arc isn't considered canon, and I really don't know if it is or isn't. If you do, by all means tell me in the comments below. Either way here, there were so many great characters in the Clone Wars that we could say something very similar about, that it would have been great to see more of them in the series. That's both the beauty and downside of an anthology-style show that kind of bounces all over the place. And the crazy thing is there was so much there to work with in that series, so many great characters and stories that they started, that it could have gone on really indefinitely. And though I'm happy to be getting some type of spin-off from it, which again is The Bad Batch, part of me would have been happier if they'd made a series and called it more Lost Tales from the Clone Wars, and not only finished all the arcs that they had planned and showed in rough animation at times, but kept exploring some of the other stories as well from some of these other characters, like Cad Bane. I don't know that I'd ever get sick of exploring that time period or the Clone Wars show itself. Okay, and moving on now, we have this comment from Kaishi Kalala, who said, "He gets an A for me. He's probably one of the few bounty hunters that I enjoy watching the most. He's always providing a challenge for the Jedi when he isn't even Force sensitive. He learns from each encounter he has with them. He's proven to be more than a smart tactician. I can't be mad at a man who is determined to get his bounty and does a great job at it." Also had this comment from Michael Smith, who said, "Easiest A in the entire show. My man broke into the Jedi Temple, killed or captured several Jedi, and completed the box." Also had this one from Maurice's channel, who said, "The only villain who wasn't affected by main character plot armor and always got the job done. He's earned an A+ in my book." And this is probably the reason why he finished higher than some of those other characters, like Grievous for example, which I was talking about before. He was easily one of the most legitimate threats in the entire show, and almost always won or got the best of the Jedi, or whoever else it might be. And I like that because it really highlights that Jedi are not superheroes. Yes, they obviously have an edge over someone who isn't Force sensitive, but it's not an auto win card. They still have to take threats like Cad Bane seriously, and again, oftentimes they lose to someone like him. And going back to the Phantom Menace for a moment, I've always loved that line from Qui-Gon Jinn and the way he delivered it, after Anakin says so firmly that nobody can kill a Jedi, and he almost somberly, or like he's lamenting lost Jedi, responds, "I wish that were so." Always been a great subtle way of pointing out that again, Jedi are not superheroes, and that someone without the Force, especially someone prepared for them, can indeed take them out. Alright, and next up here we have this comment from Tobiah Brown, who said, "Long-time listener, first-time caller. To me, Cad Bane was scary. As a kid, I remember just a feeling of dread when he was on screen or talked about. He was the kind of villain that was too smart to lose. He wasn't like Aura Singh, she was beatable, and she had a little kid with her, which kinda ruined her character. It made her weak. Cad Bane had no weaknesses. He was just a cold monster who took down anyone and everyone. He had a cool team. As a kid, I hated Cad Bane because he was a perfect bad guy. Now I love him because he's a perfect bad guy. If I was a character in Star Wars, I would like to be him. I love Kenobi, but the last 20 years of his life were just pain and suffering. I couldn't handle that, but Cad Bane would be fun. He gave me one of my favorite quotes from Clone Wars. If you're gonna kill him, do it like a man. Which was something even the Jedi didn't always follow. He didn't fall back on his morals, which is something I think only Padme does." Okay, great comment, and I'll try not to be too worried that you first called Cad Bane a cold monster that took down everyone and anyone, and then said you wished you could be like him. Because I trust you mean that you want to be him because he's cool, smart, gets things done, follows his own lead, and yet has a type of moral code or set of beliefs that he follows. And I also do agree his line that, if you're gonna kill him, do it like a man, is maybe one of the best, if not the best, in the entire show. Next up then we have this comment from Urban Guy, who said, "Everything in these polls is either A or B, it's time to stop doing these." Okay, so let me just address this quickly, because from time to time people do bring this up in the comments about how everyone seems to just get an A or a B at worst. However, I think what you first have to keep in mind here is that these results are relative, meaning I'm asking Star Wars fans to rank some of the best characters in the history of Star Wars, and I'm only giving them 5 options since that's just how YouTube polling works. So of course you're going to arguably have inflated scores. You're going to have people who think almost all of these characters are great and just deserve an A. And sometimes people will give A almost by default or because of a lack of more options. I mean, even if I had a 6th option and could put an S tier in there, I think that would help quite a bit. But again, I'm limited by what I can do here on YouTube. Still, I think the list itself is shaping up pretty accurately. There are some that maybe finished higher or lower than maybe expected or that maybe they should, but this was never going to be a perfect system. It's mainly for the fun of it and to get a chance to really look at how fans feel about some of these characters. Alright, and now let's get to just a few final comments, starting with this one from Caleb, who said, "Pretty cool that a non-Force user can hold his own against a Jedi. However, he's a rather bland character, no nuance. He's ultimately just another bad guy for Anakin, Obi-Wan, and Ahsoka to beat. C+." Then this one from Chris Jolly, who said, B, really good character who fits his role well. I enjoyed episodes with him, but definitely a step below flagship characters, maybe a C+ or B- if it were options. Also had this one from Clone, who said, there was some nice humor with Cad Bane and his droid Toto 360. Next then this comment from Dirty Frog 51, who said, if you're gonna kill him, do it like a man. That line cemented him as a legend in my mind. The most skilled bounty hunter in the galaxy, who serves only himself yet still values honor and respect. And best of all, he has a cool hat. He's always been a favorite of mine since I first saw the Clone Wars as a child. Then this one from Jared Clark, who said, Cad Bane is my favorite bounty hunter and I love bounty hunters. His action scenes were just the first time I felt a non-force sensitive user could go up against any force user and win, or at least live to see another day, which in turn made me appreciate all other bounty hunters. He's just so clever, and for the Clone Wars Season 2, was ruthless as hell. A for me. Then this one from King Snowzoo, who said, he should have had more screen time, but his arcs were amazing. He also almost killed Obi-Wan and Quinlan Vos. Most definitely A tier. And finally here this one from KitKat1133, who said, Cad Bane does an amazing job at what he's meant to do. Any episode he's in is interesting and fun to watch. Although he doesn't have a lot in terms of character development, he doesn't really need any. I just wish we could have seen his final showdown with Boba. B for me. And I do agree with this assessment. There may not be a ton of character development or anything like it, but Cad Bane certainly works and works well in the Clone Wars series. He's a credible threat to our heroes, has a cool design and a cool way of handling things, and is just enjoyable to watch. I can't think of a single bad episode that he's in, and so a solid B seems about right to me. Well, that's all I've got for you this time. Now it's your turn to tell me what you think of Cad Bane, or what I or anyone else had to say about him here in this video. You can of course also nominate or vote for which character we do next. Either way, leave a comment below and let's talk some Star Wars. And until next time, thanks for watching.